Your money manifestation won't be tested when everything's going perfectly. It will be tested when your mind immediately jumps into panic mode. And that's going to be the exact moment that you need to stop reinforcing that you don't have enough. Hello guys, welcome back, and hello to any new viewers who happen to see a money manifestation video and were curious. Maybe you're looking to manifest a certain amount, financial abundance in your life, whatever it is. This advice will definitely apply for financial safety, security, abundance, whatever it is. It might be a time crunch manifestation. There is no guarantee of exactly when you will manifest something. It's not a math equation where 2 + 2 always equals 4. But if you put in the effort, I truly believe you guys will be able to manifest quickly, efficiently, without any roadblocks in the way. And it is always possible to manifest on a time crunch. So anything is possible. Manifestation is limitless, but we're going to jump into this video right now. So what your 3D reality is currently showing you right now, probably as you're watching this video and why you might need this advice, is going to be a reflection of the assumptions that your mind has already accepted up until now. So seeing or experiencing something financially negative, a financial issue, does not mean that you should ever just accept this as your permanent reality, get very despondent, upset, fall into a victim mindset, let yourself almost fall into a depressed state. It's not a reason to ever give up or think, oh my gosh, everything's against me, or just let all of that stream of negative assumptions take over your mind. You do not have to mentally accept this as your life, as your reality. Mistake that might keep showing up and that you might be engaging with without realizing, and I understand it is logical, realistic, and based on what you're seeing in front of you. So I know people who don't understand manifesting might see this kind of example and think you're the crazy one. But when you see maybe a bill, something expensive, something's gone wrong, or you just have to put some kind of financial investment that's causing you stress, even just monthly bills. I know for people, and in the UK as well, there's currently a cost of living crisis still going on. So I understand that seeing, a bill or a financial issue come up in your 3D is going to potentially make your mind jump to, I can't afford this, or something negative where you're basically saying, I don't have the money for this. This is a financial issue for me. This is a bad thing that has come up in my circumstances. But that's the mistake, to immediately let your mind, whilst you're manifesting and you have this knowledge, jump to that. Now, your mind might consciously think that immediately, and yes, it's technically a mistake to let that pattern continue, but if it comes up, you just replace it with your mental diet. You basically think from the end result. That's the most simple principle for manifesting. And then you react. You react in a positive way to your own mental reaction or to the circumstance, whatever depends on, where your thoughts go when this comes up in a circumstance, or you're reminded of something. But you react as if this is already your current present reality. This is already your identity. This is already who you are. You are financially abundant. You mentally react as if that's true. So of course it's not ignoring, throwing or ripping up the bills or whatever. Never as a coach or in any kind of applicable, actionable advice have I ever said that or would say that. You deal with it, you acknowledge it, you take the responsible route, but mentally, when it comes to manifesting, there are no limits. There's no logic, there's no, rational thinking. Manifestation is about thinking from the end of already having what you want. Otherwise, manifestations would take 5 years to achieve. You don't want your mental diet to kind of stagnate in this place where you're stuck in a loop of things like, I can't afford this, this is so expensive, I just don't have enough money, it's never enough. You don't want your mind to spiral into that and feed into that. If it's happened up until now, if it does come up, okay, let that thought go and then immediately replace it. So don't analyze or panic about that one thought, but recognize this is the opposite. This is not what I want to be thinking. And then you flip. You immediately start affirming that you have, meaning like stating and almost in a way speaking into existence, and just speaking as if and affirming to your own mind in a commanding kind of way. This is what I have. You affirm the version of the financial story that you actually want to have. No matter what shows up, mentally, verbally, visually, that is what you tell yourself. So you don't deny that the bill or the financial issue exists. Like I said, you deal with it. I think some people sometimes get a little confused with this, but you do not allow that circumstance, which by the way is always temporary, especially when it comes to finances. This is always temporary. You don't let that to let that dictate and decide for you what your actual story, what your actual circumstances are, especially going forward. You can recognize and let it go and say, okay, in the past, I did have these issues. I was really struggling, but from the present onwards and upwards, it is a positive news story. And that's what I am going to tell my mind to hold on to repeat. I'm not going to let the external 3D temporary circumstances decide for me how I feel and how I think. So instead of letting yourself spiral, you jump to, it's already covered, it's already done, it's already resolved. Even if the bank account or, bank balance, whatever that I'm looking at now, and my logical thoughts might tell me this is a major problem and I don't have the solution, I know it's there. The solution is here. It's about to arrive in my bank account, in my hand, in my life, any second now. It's all resolved. It's all perfect. Like I said, you don't fall down the logical rabbit hole because you're not likely to find the solution that you want and need. And trust me, this is doable. I've spoken in previous videos how I've manifested money, specific amounts on specific occasions. It is absolutely possible. It is in principle just like any other manifestation. And obviously for anonymity, I won't go into too much detail. I have even had a client who has literally won the lottery. It's amazing. If you're watching, hello. But yeah, that was such an incredible story to hear. And I think it's also happened on a second time, but one was like a major lottery winning, which is incredible. So trust me, I'm telling you, firsthand experience from my own client experiences, it's possible. So of course, the point isn't that you just ignore and because sometimes there are logical ways to do it where you say, okay, maybe I have been spending too much, or maybe for the time being, to be responsible, relieve my stress, I won't go get that coffee, or I won't go to that expensive restaurant with my friend. I'll invite them to my home instead. Little responsible things. You do take financial responsibility. It's not about ignoring that. That's not what manifestation is, where you live like a millionaire. Whilst you're dealing with and mentally manifesting the solution, you don't mentally rehearse and focus on the struggles that you're having, the financial issues. That's the distinction. Through your action, you do what's responsible and logical. You deal with them as they come up in whatever way is the smart way. Everyone's going through different situations, but mentally, that's where you're living from the end. Amazing story. I believe I heard this either in a video interview with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I wasn't the one interviewing him, but I watched a video, or directly from a book that he's written that I do quote every now and then in my videos. He's got an amazing knowledge of quantum science and the quantum mechanics of manifestation, how the brain works, just everything. And he told a story about his own daughter who manifested a shopping spree. So this very closely ties in as an example, because it was basically financial abundance, essentially being given either free items that typically, is a luxury that you'd have to spend a lot of money on, perhaps things that you guys might be manifesting and where the financial kind of block is coming in, and financial abundance. So she really just focused on having this state of abundance mentally and visualizing her shopping spree. And I specifically remember she won this unlimited shopping spree in Italy, which is like such an amazing, luxurious experience. And what she did was consistently visualize the experience, already feel that abundance, the gratitude. Dr. Joe Dispenza does talk a lot about brain and heart coherence and feeling the emotion. He's a little bit more law of attraction. However, that is definitely beneficial. It puts you in the end result. It connects your mind, your body, your nervous system, your neural pathways to literally feel as if it's happening right now. So yeah, feeling the gratitude, the abundance, it means you're connecting to that. You're really imagining it as real, as if it's already occurred. So visualizing herself experiencing that shopping spree. So the amazing thing is she wasn't panicking or questioning how it's going to happen. I do think maybe she had a little bit of an ebb and flow and up and down experience internally. Of course, she didn't just start visualizing and then immediately say, yep, it's mine, shopping spree done. She's a human. I do believe she maybe, wasn't 100% convinced that was definitely going to happen now, but she didn't question the how. So she let the quantum mechanics, essentially the quantum realm, just bring in that reality, that outcome, without trying to control or question how it's going to happen. So one thing I'll definitely say is start picking up on and recognizing the opposing thoughts that you guys have about money. So I will give a bit of advice about a visual scene. You can kind of implement the approach that I just told you guys about this girl, but you want to pick up on and recognize where the root is. What are your opposing thoughts? What triggers you? Is it checking your balance? Is it trying to make travel or social plans that causes you stress? Maybe the end of the month, your bills, whatever it is. If you're manifesting something very specific on a time crunch and you think perhaps you won't have the money right now, what is it that triggers you? Because if you feed into a thought where you're saying something like, oh, I'm broke, I don't have the money, I'll never be able to afford that, you're reinforcing and holding that state, that identity as your current reality. So I'm going to speak a little bit louder because there's some work going on outside my window, but essentially you don't want to reaffirm that you're broke, that you have these issues. You're holding the same negative circumstances that you don't want in place. You don't want to keep identifying as that version of you who is broke, because that's what you're telling your mind, and then wondering why nothing is coming about positively. If you're also complaining to friends, family in your thoughts, it's very easy when you're shopping and you check pricing, which is totally normal. But, again, those are times where your mental diet will kick in, and you want to be aware. It's not just, oh, I looked at a bill and, that's where my stress is. It can be little things throughout the day. Do you complain in any way or have any type of negative thought or words regarding money in any way where you're reinforcing that you don't have the money you need? So you want to be then completely turning that old story around on its head, basically finding the positive opposite. That's usually what I advise my clients with. I would give some examples, which I will in this video as well, but you want to make sure you're basically turning it on its head. Whatever's the negative, go to the complete other end, because that's the positive opposite. So a few example affirmations I wrote down that you guys can, maybe write down on your phone or a piece of paper and say, this is my go-to, and then obviously insert any specific examples that match your situation. But saying things like, I'm wealthy, I've never had financial issues, money is constantly and perfectly in my bank account already, I always have more than enough money, everything I need is already paid for right now, and money flows to me consistently and easily. So like I gave the example of maybe checking prices in a shop, when you're checking prices or, just doing something in your normal day that would typically trigger you or maybe make you question things a little bit and feed into a negative assumption about money, even if it's in conversations with your friends or family. You don't want to reinforce it, and it's not benefiting anyone to constantly complain. So change your assumption there. Maybe next time you're doing your food shopping or just shopping in general, looking at prices of things, say that's well within my budget. I have so much money, I could afford that easily. I think I've genuinely manifested more financial abundance when I've done this. It's come about in the craziest ways. Because what you're doing is you are repeatedly and consistently teaching your mind what is normal and safe, meaning being wealthy, having financial security. It doesn't matter how you grew up, it doesn't matter past trauma with money, none of those things matter. You want to now focus on what the new story is. What's the solution? You don't need to keep rehashing the issue or saying, but this came up, but that came up. I don't care about your circumstances. Don't comment them because it's not helping you or anyone else reading it. Focus on what is the solution to take away from that, because you're essentially teaching your mind that wealth is going to be safe, it's going to be normal. You're teaching your body to accept this feels very normal to me, releasing that resistance. So it's about thinking from the version of yourself who already has this financial security. So ask yourself, what would your life actually look like if you no longer were worried about money? If you were rich, if you were wealthy and you just had all the money that you needed, what kind of thoughts would you think? How would you go about your day? How would you carry yourself? Maybe some small changes. Maybe you'd say, well, I'd have a great jewelry collection. I'd dress in a very smart, classy way because I'd have this life overhaul, almost like in a movie montage. Start thinking that way. Start doing that. Say, okay, maybe today I'm going to put on this nice bracelet that I love that I don't often wear because I'm a wealthy woman, for example. Have fun with it. Now, in terms of the visual I mentioned, maybe pick a scene now of something that implies that your financial abundance is here, your wealth is here, you now have it. A short, quick, simple scene, similar to how the girl who manifested the shopping spree was imagining herself, I believe, carrying the shopping bags, just walking around the shops. Something simple. It could be you in your dream car. It could be just you, the way you walk, you walking down the street, looking at your mirror reflection, maybe getting ready in the morning or checking your bank balance. Just a short, simple scene that is possible to loop. It's fine if there's a little bit of resistance. There likely will be. This isn't something I would recommend going down into steps about. So it's unlikely to be, very low resistance, but that's okay. Enjoy it, have fun with it. And then keep repeating it until this feels like a normal, safe, and very familiar scene that you feel comfortable in. Your mind isn't blocking it logically, consciously, you can connect to it, and it just feels familiar. Letting go of it seeming impossible. You're focusing on the details of what that experience would actually be like, of you just in the end result, not trying to obsess or fixate on and question every single thing of, well, how could this possibly come together? Because you definitely don't need to decide that it has to come through one specific route. That's the beauty with manifesting. There's millions of ways, and also the beauty with faith. Sometimes God honestly answers the prayers in the most amazing way. Actually, last night when I said a prayer for something, I instantly got inspiration. So it's just beautiful the way things in life can just work out so quickly. So please try not to stress or think, well, it has to come in this way. Well, my salary has to change, but how could that possibly happen? Do not question it. It doesn't have to come in through one specific route. And likewise, you don't have to have that entire bridge of events, bridge of incidents figured out of, getting from point A to point B to point C, trying to figure out, okay, but how could this come about? You don't have to plan it out. Let it be inspired action. Let it come together. Just keep putting yourself mentally in that end result. So next time you get a bill or look at anything tying into money, instead of repeating that story and that mental state of lack, letting yourself panic, letting your nervous system maybe get into a panicked or anxious state, feed it back into the new story. Because it's not about trying to force your mind to accept and believe in something that you imagine for a couple minutes or just during your visual. You're letting it build up. You're just mentally connecting, easier done with words than with a visual because of resistance. Your mind and body will never stop you from thinking or physically saying those words. But whether it's a visual or through affirmations, you're not trying to force yourself to fully believe it in a couple of minutes. It builds up. Because you are becoming and focusing on, your goal is to become the version of you where financial wealth and abundance is just normal, it's expected. The more you keep coming back to that place, the more you bring yourself back from the negative old story into the new version with a mental diet, a visual, or your affirmations, the less power that old negative story has. That story of wherever your financial struggles were, maybe even deep-rooted things from childhood or past years, whatever it is, the less power that has, because you're putting yourself consciously deciding, no, I'm not going down that route. This is the type of thoughts I'm going to have. That is exactly what it means to put yourself in the present moment of your desired financial reality and remove the power from the 3D, from the circumstances.